One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. One day I'm gonna be free. We're standing at the crossroads, feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free.
Are watching tonight, but if you are a historian, understand that we're in a situation today that's orders of magnitude more dangerous than the Cuban Missiles Crisis at its height. We are on the cusp of nuclear war. It could happen right now during this program. That's how stupid this entire thing is. If I were a betting man, I could go and find different odds and make money off of this because this is a wager that I would take, that there would be a nuclear war by the middle of June. It doesn't mean it's 100%, doesn't mean it's 90%, but it ain't zero. It ain't even close to 0%. It's over 50% right now. There's over 50% chance there will be a nuclear war by mid-June because you factor in the stupidity of the Western leadership. You got Joe Biden greenlighting the use of American weapons to strike Russia when Russia says that's an act of war. You have President Macron doing the same thing, Schroeder doing the same thing, all of Europe doing the same thing, as if it's no big deal to attack Russia.
What up, everybody? What up? What up? This is Archbishop. Once again, doing another show, The Dominant Effect. We got Mike Ball is absent again this week. He's as everybody know, he's in the process of moving from California to Alabama, and he's getting everything hooked up and settled up and good to go in Alabama. So so I brought Aaron with me today, and we're gonna dig we're gonna dig down into this. So Aaron, welcome aboard.
Appreciate being here, my man.
So this subject here we've talked about extensively past couple of weeks, and it seems like it's been steady progressing, you know, and to the point that it was like, okay, this is something that, you know, we need to talk about, because this is something that had went from something that was talked about, was like, this could never happen, to something that we're standing actually in the precipice of something happening. So we're gonna dig down into this tonight and try to put some clarity and put out a little bit more information on this stuff, opposite of what we're seeing, because we're only seeing bits and pieces of it and are actually telling the whole thing to where you get the full explanation of it. So we're gonna dig into it tonight. So before we get started, well, take that back. Let's just go on and jump into it. Ain't no point.
Okay.
Ain't no point in messing with it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is let's dig into this Ukraine thing a little bit. And now let's get this first. We're not talking about anything that went on in the past 2 years. We're talking about what's going on right now, dealing with Ukraine. Now, everybody knows that this is a proxy war. Everybody knows that. And for those of you who don't know what a proxy war is basically a war that's being fought, but you have opposite powers that's basically instigating the war to keep it going. So they put their money, their weapons, and everything else into the war, but then they just kind of sit back and just watch it play its course. And we see this on both sides. So on Ukraine's side, we see it being played out by the U.S. and NATO. And on Russia's side, we also see it being played out by China, because China and North Korea, because they've been giving up weapons and drones and other stuff that they've been using for this charade that they've been doing for the past couple of years. But what we got going on now is, I think during the past 2 years, it was done to where, like, we were giving weapons to Ukraine. Make sure I'm correct about this, Aaron. We was giving weapons to Ukraine to basically defend themselves, but they were not to shoot anything over into Russia, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So just here within the past couple of days, it was said on a newscast, allegedly, that President Biden gave the okay for them to hit targets that was over into Russia, because they said that they were actually shooting rockets from Russia into Ukraine instead of the ones that was actually in Ukraine. So being the fact that they were shooting weapons from Russia over into Ukraine, and it was only fair that the same thing happens in return, which in fact escalated this quite a bit. So am I correct by saying that?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, in asymmetric warfare, game theory applies. You go tit for tat. When someone brings something to the table to use against you, you have to match or bring greater power. Each and every time Ukraine has stepped up with American weapons, Russia's hit back much harder. I mean, Ukraine's power grids right now is totally wiped out. Between the cyber attacks and them attacking the power stations, Ukraine no longer has electricity. So that just crushes your economy right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, so other than that, what you have is, if I'm not mistaken, they started to thicken up the forces over in the NATO countries like Poland and Poland, Sweden, Norway. That that way, I think they added what, another, was it 32,000 or 320,000? Which one was it?
It's in the 300 range if you're talking about U.S. troops being deployed overseas to Europe. Europe seemed to think that we was goading Russia into a fight and was going to leave them to manage the fight to where their countries would be wiped out, and then there we'd be coming in playing cleanup man. But to prove to them that we had their back, we had to commit 300,000 troops to support the already existing forces that they have over there.
Mm. Now I remember back when they first started sending forces over. I know they was if I'm not mistaken, the 101st Airborne was the first ones that were sent there.
Right.
I had a couple friends that it went during that time. But then I also heard about they were supposed to be sending over 300,000 more troops that way. So they kind of scattering them out there. So let me ask you this. And I know you're not a oracle to tell what all's going to happen, but just in your own opinion, what do you think is going to happen with this?
Well, I can't say if it would be in this month or in 2 years, but we're definitely headed toward a major war. To be moving those kind of forces, plus we're running military war games right now. Taiwan, as of this week, is deploying sea mines for the expected war with China. Everything is escalating. And when we move 300,000 troops over there, Russia's going to have to move troops up to match us on the borders. It's going to be a real mess here. I don't know when it's going to happen, but right now I say we're past the point of thinking that it won't happen. I hope that reason and people can negotiate, make a deal, do something. But I hate to see war break out because the supply chain is going to get wiped out. The ports will be attacked and there won't be nothing coming over here. So I
Right.
hope the United States could go back to manufacturing its own stuff because we may need to before the end of this happens.
Right. I mean, it kind of seems like to me like they want it to happen. And the
Right.
reason why I'm saying that is you have the NATO chief. I got a little video with the NATO chief was actually asking to lift the restrictions that that the U.S. had put in place about using U.S. weapons in Russia, and he was on there trying to get them to lift this. I mean, which it ended up being said allegedly that Biden has said, okay, I didn't, of course, I ain't seen nothing in writing to say that's actually taking place, but there is several news stories that was put out, not in the U.S. though, in other places that this had took place. So I'm gonna hit this one little video here, and this is just the one where the NATO chief is actually to lift these restrictions.
I think the time has come for allies to consider whether they should lift some of the restrictions they have put on the use of weapons they have donated to Ukraine, because especially now when a lot of the fighting is going on in Kharkiv, close to the border, to deny Ukraine the possibility of using these weapons against legitimate military targets on Russian territory makes it very hard for them to defend themselves.
So to be clear, you're asking the US to lift the restrictions on the use of American weapons over Russian territory?
I believe the time has come for allies to consider whether they should lift some of the restrictions they have imposed on weapons donated to Ukraine. because we need to remember what this is. This is a war of aggression by Russia against Ukraine. Ukraine has the right to defend themselves, and that includes also striking targets on Russian territory. Some allies have already lifted those restrictions, allowing to use their weapons against military targets in Ukraine, and I believe the time has come for all the allies to consider this.
The UK has effectively lifted the restrictions, and it is the US that's really the single most important one.
I think what we see now demonstrates the need to reconsider those restrictions, not least because we have fighting going on along the border between Russia and Ukraine, especially in the Kharkiv region, where the front line and the borderline is more or less the same. And then, of course, if you deny Ukraine the right to hit military targets on Russian territory, then you make it very hard for them to uphold the right for self-defense. This is self-defense. Self-defense is enshrined in the UN Charter. It's legal, it's legitimate, and we are helping Ukraine with upholding that right, and that should include the ability to also strike targets on Russian territory when there are military legitimate targets we're talking about.
So what'd you get out of that?
Well, they're definitely going to do it because Biden's already approved it. And I don't think people really understand. Yes, you have the right of self-defense, but there comes a point of insanity to keep fighting the fight you can't win. I mean, Russia has over, 145 million people. Ukraine has, 44 million? In asymmetric warfare, if you kill one of theirs for every time they kill one of yours, Ukraine's population would be long dead before they put a major dead into Russia's population. There's no way that they can win that. And Russia going to wear them down till there's nothing left. I mean, the average age of a Ukrainian soldier is 44 years old. That means most of the younger people has been wiped out. I mean, if this war ended right now, Ukraine has no labor force that are men. I mean, unless you're going to count old men. I mean, they're going to be affected for decades until they can regroup. I mean, economically, they're wiped out.
Exactly. Yeah, when I was looking at this earlier, it kind of seemed to me like it's more NATO pushing this.
Oh, definitely.
Than it is the United States. Mind you, that the United States is the biggest superpower in that group, of course. But it seems like it's these other ones, like Norway, Poland. Matter of fact, I think Poland even offered to give up so much land so that NATO could put actual nuclear weapons in Poland. Which that ain't gonna fare right either. You know what I mean? So you kind of playing. It's like you got NATO and you got Russia basically playing chicken to see who gonna jump first, who gonna do what first. And from some of the other documentaries and stuff that I've talked shows that I've looked at, they say that Russia is actually not trying to do it, but NATO is actually pushing it.
Right.
So, but they also doing the same thing in China, dealing with Taiwan. They're doing the same thing in Israel, dealing with Iran. And we're gonna jump into that later on. But there was a poll that I seen yesterday, and they was asking Americans think that World War III was imminent. And surprisingly, 61% of Americans on this poll said that they think that World War III is going to be imminent. I actually seen another show where they had some top officials on there that was basically giving a countdown to this and said that this could actually take place mid-June. I've seen another thing on the internet on this AI that this AI program predicted that as well within a couple of days of what somebody else had said. But I don't think people really realize the ramifications of this. Because it's not like this is going to be something that's going to like, oh, this is going to happen over there, and we're going to sit here and we're going to go day to day like everything is no big deal. That's not the case. So, and especially if you bring the nuclear part into this equation, that it's not gonna just be over there. It's gonna, this is gonna be a broad spectrum thing. It's not like World War II where everybody fought over in Europe and nobody did nothing here. Everybody just kept on working and doing everything that they were normally doing. That's not going to be the same here with this. Also, I've seen something where me and you were talking earlier where they said that Ukraine had destroyed two Russian weapon stations, or what exactly was that?
They were early warning radar stations. Russia
Yes.
has a total of 10, and Ukraine had taken out 2 of them, which any weapon coming from a certain direction now will not be able to be picked up. And as I said, if I've got a defensive perimeter set around my house and I've got cameras on all 4 sides, and one side camera suddenly goes black and it's getting to be dark time, any noise I hear on that side, I'm gonna fire first and ask questions later. It creates a hair trigger situation, because if you can't see what's coming, you're going to perceive a threat and you might overreact to whatever it is that you think is coming from that direction. And it may be something very minor. And people don't see that. And no matter how, as I said earlier, no matter how Ukraine counters back with our weapons, Russia always hits them even harder in retaliation. And you're talking a great deal of loss of civilian life as well as military life. Russia ain't just hitting military targets over there. They're hitting towns, cities, everything.
Right.
And if we give them sufficient weapons to actually go into Russia, what will stop Russia from using a tactical nuke at that point? Just to make an example.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. No, you're fine. No, I was actually agreeing with you because you're absolutely correct. It seems like what they got going on right now, it's just been broad spectrum. Anybody that's in the way at that particular time, they getting it. It's nothing. This is, it's actual wars. It's not like you dealing with the Geneva Convention where you can only do certain, you can only do this and you can't kill this, and where they try to actually put rules to the war. That's not what's going on there.
Right. And that's another thing right there. The next war that's coming, if it's NATO against Russia and China or different ones, this is going to be the first war in our history where everyone, China, Russia, United States, NATO, we'll be able to see what's coming at us. They'll be able to see what's coming at them, even on the ground, because everyone's got sophisticated military satellites up there. They can see every time you get ready to advance and be able to counter it with something. And we'll be able to see every time they try to advance on us and be able to counter them with something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to change the prospect of warfare there in itself.
Right.
And then along with that, they're setting the new groundwork. NATO and the United States is saying that any major cyber attack against any nation of NATO, member nation, or any physical attack will be seen as an act of war against NATO, and NATO will come in against Russia. All you got to do is just attack one of the member nations, major cyber attack or physical attack, and they're saying it's going to be on.
Mm-hmm. Now there was another thing that I've seen. Did you hear about the satellite that Russia put up a few weeks ago that actually has a nuclear payload? but I guess I guess this satellite is supposed to be set up to where it could interfere with U.S. satellites to basically try to knock it out of commission if anything ever took place. Now, I remember them back years ago. I remember reading about a treaty that they had signed. I think this was back in like '67.
Okay.
It was the outer space treaty. It was basically set up to where if you put a satellite or anything in orbit that you could not detonate
Weaponized.
a nuclear warhead in space.
Okay.
Now we hear about this this target satellite. Matter of fact, I got a video I'm gonna play about it. But even with that, I mean, now I'm pretty sure that there's probably all kind of weapons floating around the atmosphere. You know,
Right.
these different satellites set up to do different stuff. So it's not like, okay, you know, they have something that somebody else don't have, because there was also one that I had read up on about a couple months ago. I think I brought it up on the show that North Korea had done the same thing. And they had it to where that satellite was actually orbiting around the US constantly.
Right.
So it's like it's a bunch of trickery going on. But I'm gonna play this video right quick. It's just the one where they're actually talking about this Russian satellite that they just put up. I want you to check this out.
Serious national security threat to the U.S. Details are classified, but U.S. intelligence says Russia is working on new weapons to knock out American satellites. This morning, one Russian official called the story a fabrication. Nancy Cordes is at the White House. Nancy, what are we learning from your sources?
Vlad, I'll tell you, this sounds like the plot of a sci-fi movie, but what we're talking about here is intelligence that Russia has been working to develop a nuclear-capable weapon that can destroy America's ability to communicate by targeting our satellites, which could in turn impact military operations here on Earth. Fresh evidence of that came last Friday when Russia launched a second rocket carrying a top-secret satellite that is now in orbit high above Earth. Now, keep in mind that the use of any nuclear weapon in space would be a violation of what's known as the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. We only learned about all of this after the chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Republican Mike Turner, released a really cryptic statement yesterday warning of a, quote, serious national security threat and urging the White House to declassify all information so that the U.S. and its allies can openly discuss the actions necessary to respond to this threat. The White House was totally caught off guard by Turner's statement. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters he was surprised that Turner went public on this one day before Turner's scheduled to be briefed on the matter alongside other lawmakers by Sullivan and others. Now, other members of Congress with access to this intelligence say this isn't exactly new. They've known about this threat for months, and while it is a serious concern, there is no reason to panic right now, they say, because Russia still has a ways to go in its efforts to build this space weapon.
What you got?
They definitely have that. We've got a missile that can be deployed from the belly of an F-15 Eagle that could go up in the upper atmosphere, release the rocket, and it's designed to take out satellites. So we're all going to be targeting each other's satellites, and I'm sure the navigation satellites are going to be taken out as well.
Oh yeah. Now you would think that, you know, being the amount of technology that all these different countries have, that would probably be the first thing that would go on would be cyber attacks, shutting down infrastructure, stuff like that. You figure that would be the very first thing that they would try to do.
Right.
And I figured that a lot of that would actually happen before any actual boots on the ground would even take place. You know what I mean? So you would go with the cyber, then you start knocking out satellites, then you start, airstrikes, stuff like that. Then moving on down to where you're actually putting boots on the ground. But here's the thing. Don't you think that when I say we, I mean the US, don't you think we're being a little stretched out here? Because let me tell you how I'm processing this. Okay. So you got a couple conflicts that's going on simultaneously where the US is involved. Okay. So you just sent over 300,000 troops to
Europe.
right.
Europe.
To Poland, Norway, they all over there. Okay. Now, just the other day, you sent F-22 and 16,000 soldiers to Taiwan. This has just been a couple days ago. Now, you also have the Navy that's over in Israel right now, helping them, keeping them from getting excess rocket attacks from Iran. Which I think a lot of that, I think the actual rockets coming from Iran has actually kind of slimmed down a little bit since their president was
Assassinated.
You said that. I didn't. You said that. But that is kind of what it seemed like. But so mind you, like I said, we're being stretched on 3 different parts of the world, okay, with 3 different conflicts. Now, also, these same 3 that we're battling against is also the main 3 when it's dealing with this BRICS situation, which we're going to jump into that later on as well. Now, if everybody is scattered out everywhere else, what happens if something goes on here? Everybody else is scattered out all over the place.
That's why we have the National Guard.
That is
I
true.
just don't know.
That is true.
I just don't know if it's equally armed as the U.S. Army.
Right. But also, though, National Guard get sent out on deployments like this as well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's not like they just happily just here and readily available. You know what I mean? So and from what I've understood from a couple other reports, that there's been actual attacks that they stopped them before they actually took place. But there has been several here within the past 2 months that they have called right before anything actually went on. So this has been ongoing. You know what I mean? So we have everybody stretched out all over the place, and then we have a bunch of them that's here, which we already know they here. A lot of them came right from the southern border, so we know they here, and they know that they have sales all over the U.S. They know this, but they've been slowly catching them doing stuff, where they've made several plots to blow up different infrastructures and stuff like that they've been stopped.
Yeah, they're trying to create sabotage. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So so this isn't something that, like I was saying earlier, that, okay, everything's going to go on somewhere else and nothing's going to happen here. This is something that can very well happen here, and more than likely will happen here some way, shape, form, or fashion. You agree with that?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you got 8 million foreigners that are in this country right now that recently came in. If just 1% of them are evil and have evil intention, hollering death to America, and they actually plan on carrying it out, that's a damn invasion force that's already in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was what was it that they were saying that they had caught? You know what? Matter of fact, I'm not even going to guess. I got something on this. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Last 36 months, we've apprehended just at the southwest border over 285 illegal aliens trying to enter our country illegally that are on the FBI's terror screening database. In addition to that, we've apprehended tens of thousands of what we call special interest aliens, SIAs, that come from countries that we know harbor, sponsor, and facilitate terrorism. So think about that. And by the way, the 285 that we've apprehended on the terror screening database, that's more than the past 10 years combined.
So they've apprehended more people in the past couple months than the past 10 years combined. Okay, so it's like, did we not set ourselves up by letting all these people through the border?
Never made sense to me that they were doing it.
You know, I thought it was.
Can't
Go ahead.
control the border. Put the U.S. Army down there to control the border. You can stop that anytime you get good and ready. But people don't seem to act like they can.
You know, I thought it was odd at first. You know, when they first started talking about the migrants that was coming through the southern border, you know, at first they tried to make it seem like that it was all people from South America and all that. And then you found out later on that it wasn't them. You know, that was probably the first rush, but that's not been the ones that's been continuously coming through. These have been people from Russia, from Iran, from South Africa, and a whole lot of Chinese nationals. A whole lot of them.
Right.
And some of these people were paying up to $25,000 a piece just to bootleg their way up through the southern border. You know,
right.
Now, like I said, like once you started seeing all these other nationalities start coming, don't that not kind of like trigger something like oh hell no, now where y'all come from? You know what I mean?
And the fact that there's no females with them, they're all military age males. Yeah,
exactly.
That's what makes you think to something.
Exactly. And you just steady letting them come in. You know what I mean? And you just throw them on a bus, on a plane, and ship them to wherever. And you know, that's where they setting up at. You know what I mean? I just seen a thing the other day. We're up in Chicago. I think between the actual residents of Chicago and the migrants, like it's basically like a war zone up there now. They battling left and right. So it's not like this has been something that's been helpful. You know what I mean? I think over in Colorado, over in Denver, matter of fact, they set up something to where they were asking the actual residents that live in Denver was like, hey, I mean, if you got an extra room, you know, give it to a migrant, let them stay with you, and we'll give you so much money to let them stay or whatever. But the point I'm trying to make here is, you know, you bought over 8 million into the country, 8 million. Okay. Now, you know that a lot of them, now they may have caught a lot of people at the southern border, but you know, it was a whole lot of them that they didn't catch.
That's right.
That walk right through with no problem. And these are the ones that they're catching now that's actually out here setting up all this other stuff to try to, you know, bring terrorism right into our front door.
Yeah, they'll be setting up safe houses, underground networks. I mean, they'll be moving people back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, here's another question. So I seen something the other day. Matter of fact, I got a video on it where, like the UK and France, and some of these other countries were actually put on their news channels, wanting their residents to go out and stock up on on food and canned goods and batteries and all the other stuff. And they said it was funny how they worded it. It was more or less along the lines of in case of pandemic, cyber attack, or war. So they already put it out to all of them. Okay, so you got the UK and you got Norway, you got Poland, you got
Germany,
France,
yeah,
Germany
France.
too. That was all given. Has been putting this out to the people. Okay, why come you ain't heard nothing over here about this? Why come ain't nobody said nothing about that over here?
Nope.
I mean, like I ain't seen not one news station say anything about you stocking up on anything, but all
Correct.
these other countries they telling them to. You know, so is that one of the things where you kind of like, you know, leading the lamb to slaughter, so to speak?
I'm gonna put it like this. I don't know how religious a man you are, but in the book of Revelations, there is no mention of the United States in the end times. So we're either been destroyed or we're third world country when those end times start to come about, because there's no mention of us whatsoever.
Yeah, I know that. You know, that's kind of one of them situations where you hope that that's wrong. I mean,
Well, I'm gonna
you
say
hope that it's
this:
wrong.
in order for China and Russia to be able to get their way around the world, the United States has to be non-existent or hurt to the point that we can no longer exhort any sort of offense to be a threat to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
If Europe did not have the United States supporting them, Japan and China and the Philippines didn't have the United States supporting them, they'd be hard pressed. I mean, there's 88 countries around the world that we have troops in right now. Even today, I mean, this week and part of last week, we shipped missiles to Philippines that can be launched from the Philippines that can reach and strike China. I don't know if people are aware of that or not, but plane pieces are being moved into position, and they're not cost a lot of money to move all these troops and these people. They ain't spending that money for nothing. There's a long-term end goal here, and people better wake up and realize that if they don't start stocking, if Europe gets taken out, what comes from Europe over here won't be coming no more. If war breaks out over there around Taiwan, Japan, China, what comes from China is not going to come over here no more. And that's 80% of the pharmaceuticals that people need, along with shoes, clothing, etc. Computer chips will no longer be coming from Taiwan. Things is going to get tough. And we're talking some years, I would say a minimum of 2 years that you're going to have to tough it out. And it might be 7 to 10. I mean, the recent wars have all gone close to 10 years. So people better be prepared for the long game here and not be short-sighted. I mean, during World War II, people grew victory gardens in their backyards. Their backyards was for the gardens. The front yards were to grow medicinal herbs and herbs to spice your foods with. I mean, there was no grass. That was something that we copied off of rich folks. Rich folks had grass. We had gardens.
Right. Now I remember back when when they first started talking about China wanting to go in and take Taiwan, and they were talking about that that Taiwan made just about 80% of the chips that went into basically everything that but I also heard during that time too that the US was actually building factories here in the US and was bringing a lot of those technicians and whatever, was bringing them over to the US to run these factories here, because if it came down to a situation to where China did actually take over or infiltrated Taiwan, that they would basically blow those factories up.
That is correct. They can't afford for that to fall into their hands to where they can start producing, and we're over here doing without. And most of the factories we're building over here won't be operational to probably 2027, 2028, or 2030. So, I mean, we're going to need stuff now if they're going to be gearing up for this war that seems to be coming our way, whether we like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got this little video here I'm gonna play, and it's talking about what they did here a couple of days ago when they sent the 16,000 troops and the F-22s over to Taiwan, and it just kind of gives a summary as to what all's going on over there. So I'm gonna play this right quick for everybody to check out, and then we'll come back and we'll hit this.
In a bold move that has captured the world's attention, the United States has deployed 25 F-22 Raptor fighter jets and 16,000 troops to Taiwan. This strategic maneuver raises crucial questions about global security, the balance of power in East Asia, and the future of U.S.-China relations. Stay with us as we break down what this means for the world. The U.S. has sent a formidable force to Taiwan, a move that's sure to have far-reaching implications. Let's get into the details. To understand the gravity of this deployment, we first need to look at the historical context. Taiwan, officially known as the Republic of China, ROC, has been a point of contention between the U.S. and the People's Republic of China, PRC, for decades. While Taiwan considers itself a sovereign state, China views it as a breakaway province and has vowed to reunify it with the mainland, by force if necessary. The U.S. has maintained a policy of strategic ambiguity regarding Taiwan, supporting its defense capabilities without officially recognizing it as a separate nation. This recent deployment marks a significant escalation in U.S. military involvement in the region. The F-22 Raptor is one of the most advanced fighter jets in the world. Designed for air superiority, it features stealth technology, super cruise capabilities, and highly advanced avionics. Let's take a closer look at what makes the F-22 such a formidable asset. The F-22's stealth capabilities make it nearly invisible to radar, allowing it to penetrate deep into enemy territory without detection. Its super cruise function enables sustained supersonic flight without afterburners, giving it a distinct speed advantage. Additionally, the F-22 is equipped with cutting-edge avionics that provide unparalleled situational awareness and targeting precision. Deploying 25 F-22 Raptors to Taiwan sends a clear message to China and the world. It demonstrates the U.S. commitment to defending its allies and maintaining a strategic presence in the Pacific. The F-22's capabilities significantly enhance Taiwan's defensive posture. In addition to the F-22 Raptors, the U.S. has deployed 16,000 troops to Taiwan. This is a substantial force that includes infantry, armored units, and support personnel.
Now, they done stacked up over there, because they had already sent munitions and armored vehicles and all that stuff already over there already. Now they just dumped another 25 F-22s and then 16,000 more. So something where there's another little small island that's in between China and Taiwan that they've set up shop there as well, correct?
That's correct.
So they and I think during that time, I think China was really pitching a fit over that, because that put them way close. It was because it was literally like half the distance between this island and China as it was from China to Taiwan. So it's like they literally right there. Did you see that part?
Oh, I definitely saw that, and I wouldn't want to be the troops that are there because they're going to be bombed to hell and back when China tries to go across that waterway. Because they're not going to leave an active fire base operating right behind them when they try to come across that water.
Right. Now we were talking about earlier that actually I brought it up that the same these same countries that we're dealing with that we putting troops and supplies and planes and carriers and everything else, setting up for something to go down, are also these same top ones that's trying to start this form of currency, this brick currency. And I hear that there's supposed to be a meeting with that over, let me see, what is that, in October, if I'm not mistaken. But I also heard today that a lot of these countries are the ones that are actually going to back BRICS. That a lot of these countries are basically giving money back to the U.S. Like have you heard about that?
Yeah, they're ditching the U.S. currency. They don't need it, and the Federal Reserve had printed up all this money, and it's like having a glass of milk that's half full. Every time they ship our cash back to us, you're adding a tablespoon of water to that milk. By the time that milk gets to the top of the glass, it's been so diluted in value from all that cash coming back, you ain't got milk in that glass no more. You got something, but I don't know what it is. And I'm gonna go so far as to say, watch the oil as well, because we have an inverse relationship. If we can keep oil prices low, the U.S. dollar stays the king of the hill, and it keeps our dollar from collapsing. If the oil prices start going up, then the value of the money in Venezuela, Russia, and them, they get to enjoy an increase in the value and spending power of their money. But when oil prices go down, the value of their money goes down. So we're trying to suppress that price of oil in order to keep our money afloat. That's part of the reason why we put sanctions and tariffs and different things against Russia. But China stepped up and started buying all the Russian oil. We told different countries around the world not to buy oil from Russia, and those BRIC nations defied us, and they're buying and they're doing their own trading among themselves as if they don't need us anymore.
Yeah. So now, when you were just talking about the oil prices, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Saudi Arabia, along with United Emirates, is also talking about going over to this BRICS currency as well.
That's correct.
And then they were saying that, let me see, who was the other one that was just today that they were talking about? I think it was Thailand that they were talking about that was going to switch over as well. So there's several countries that's been talking about doing this, and it seems like each one that's agreed to do this is slowly gonna cripple this dollar. It's slowly gonna cripple it until it's basically worthless, really.
And that's going to be catastrophic over here, because I've saw the latest financial reports. And in order to be classified middle class in the United States right now, you got to be making $200,000 a year combined household income to be considered middle class. Anything below that, you're just working class. So they're changing the class structures right now to redefining working class and poor. 65% of Americans are living hand to mouth, which basically means us, with inflation being so high, as fast as the money is coming in, it's going right back out on bills and food and gas and other essentials. People can't go out and shop like they used to, and it's affecting the hospitality industry. It's affecting the retail industries. Even the dollar stores are in trouble, financial trouble right now. Walmart's in trouble. Red Lobster has filed for bankruptcy protection. We're going to see a lot of places that if they don't have enough money to stand tall in the tall grass with the tall dogs, they're going to get dirty, and they may not be around. to see the end of this when it comes.
Yeah, you know, I've seen a lot of those when they was talking about a lot of those different restaurant chains and stuff where they were either filing for bankruptcy or they were shutting down so many locations throughout the country and whatnot. Now, at first they were talking about they were doing that because of the wage increase. When they was talking about raising the minimum wage up to $20 an hour or whatever, and then a lot of these companies start laying people off, whatever. They was like, you know, I mean, we can't afford to accommodate that. But then now it starts coming to is like, okay, that may have been a part of it, but that wasn't the whole reason, you know, because now you're starting to see all this other stuff that's coming into play now.
Right.
You know, and so
even,
to me, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm thinking the reason for all this other stuff that's going on here. I don't think it has anything to do with resources. I don't think it has anything to do with oil. I don't think it has anything to do with anything other than the fact that this is all dealing with money. And it's dealing with not everybody's money, this particular currency here. And it's like, okay, you are not under any circumstances going to bankrupt us. And if this is what you think you're going to do, then I'm going to bomb the shit out of all of you. That's what it seems like to me.
Right.
And I think, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, it's just like anybody else. If you go and say, I go and I try to take all your money. Like I got a reason, like I got access, I can come and I can wipe you out and take all your money. Now, but you know that it's me that's doing it. So are you not going to come after me because you know I'm the one that done it? Or I'm the one that's plotting to take your money. So you know you're going to come after me. Okay. So you hear them talk about this every single day. They talk about it on the news. They talk about it on the money market shows. They've been blasting it on every show that you can think of that this is what they're doing and that they're trying to start this new currency. And you know, once I started looking at this stuff, there was other countries that were, you know, like right now in the U.S. is the dominant currency, but there were other dominant currencies prior to that, and they usually all lasted about 100 years. The U.S. actually has 103 years. So you're kind of leading on that, but whether you got 103 years behind you, ain't no way in hell that they're gonna sit there and say, okay, you know, we're gonna just let this happen, and we're gonna sit in the back. And all these years that we've been the dominant, now we're gonna sit back and just let them do it. There's no way in hell I'm gonna let that happen. So, my opinion, and this is just my opinion, everything that I'm hearing on here about all these other reasons as to why they trying to do XYZ, it don't have anything to do with that. Thing is, though, if I can get you three or you two, if I get you two, guess what? There ain't gonna be no bricks. Only brick you gonna see is the one somebody gonna throw at your ass going down the street. But it ain't gonna be on no money. I mean, and that's what it's gonna come down to. Just like we did Desert Storm, we was over in Iraq for all those years. That was all over oil. It was all oil. Now they made it possible to disguise that and say, hey, this is what it's about. But that's everybody knew that this was all over oil. This one here is over this currency. And it's gonna go down. It's gonna have to. It's gonna have to. They can't just sit there and just let it happen.
I know right now, Federal Reserve, just in case they can't control the situation and the dollar does take a tumble, they already have the new currency ready to bring out called CBDC, which is the central bank digital currency. And I hope I don't see that in my lifetime, but I got a feeling I will be. But it's going to be straight population control when you can no longer buy things with cash, and every transaction you make is going to be tracked. Even if you decide to have a garage sale, every dollar you receive will be taxed, and it would be all on computer credits. They'll be able to track everything that you do, down to you even stocking up on cases of water, and they can deny it. So I hope
Exactly.
I don't see that, but they've already got it in place. They're ready to bring it forward. In order for them to bring it forward, the US dollar has to collapse. So you don't know if they're going to engineer that or what, but there is a long game plan here in place. Is the reason why they're trying to bring about this war. And again, the goal is to keep the United States in power. I mean, money is going to be the key to keeping it there. Our money has to stay the world currency. They take that from us, we're going into a major depression over here, and Europe will be going with us because the euro only makes up 20% of the world currency right now, and it's tied in with the US dollar. So if our money goes down, Europe is going down the tubes with us.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. So this is, I'm telling you, the more it seems like all these ones that me and you be sitting here talking about all the time. You know, I don't think people realize how long. Like me and you get on the phone, and we be on the phone for hours, just going
Yeah.
back and forth about a lot of this stuff that's going on. And it seems like every time that we talk, it's like we're putting another piece to the puzzle
That's right.
because it's all somewhere along the line, it's all connected. But it's and then I've been noticing here too is that a lot of the stories that we've been talking about, you know, fast forward 2-3 weeks later, you hear about it.
Mhm.
So it's so I'm kind of thinking like I'm kind of ahead of the game a little bit when it comes to
Yeah.
when it comes to putting out some of this information. Um, but hold on, what was this other one? It was another one I was going to ask you about here. Um, oh, it was the it was about the one when where these other countries was asking their people to get prepared. So I'm going to play it for them to see, but then I want you to kind of elaborate on because you the man when it comes to that, and just kind of go alongside with what they're saying there. Like, do you agree with what they're saying, and just kind of take your own little spin to it? So I'm gonna play
Okay.
this right quick.
In a surprise announcement, the UK government has advised its residents to get prepared for an emergency. It's advised people to have an emergency kit in case of floods, power outages, cyber attacks, or war. 10 liters of bottled water per person per day, torch, portable power bank, battery or wind-up radio, spare batteries, first aid kit, hand sanitizer and wet wipes, food that doesn't need cooking, such as ready-to-eat tin food, and a tin opener. Many people live in small places, which brings the question, how many days worth of rations do you reckon you would be able to stock up for?
Well, I would say that's spot on. But I mean, there's two things that go through my mind. One is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I mean, I don't care how many times you tell the people to do something, it's going to be their choice whether or not they're going to do it. And if that's not a hint to the wise to be sufficient, I don't know what is, because the government is not going to tell you to do anything until almost the last minute, because they got to stock up first. And then after they're through stocking, then they will advise the population to stock. So if they're telling their population to stock, their military machine is already fully stocked. And the military gets first preference of any supplies coming in country in the event war breaks out. I mean, my dad, who grew up during the Great Depression, and so did my mom, they both grew up on farms. They had to butcher their own beef, their own pork. They had to grow their own food because everything was on a ration card. And if people don't think they're going to see them ration cards come back, they're sadly mistaken. You could have had plenty of money, but if your ration card said only 1 5-pound bag of sugar and one serving of coffee, bag of coffee, then that's all you got. It didn't matter. There was no black market to buy from. And where's the black market going to get the stuff from unless you're going to be heisting military supplies? And during a war situation, I wouldn't advise that.
Yeah, that's when them commodities gonna show their face again. But you know what though? Let me take that back, because I actually seen them giving out commodities here in Florida in the past couple of weeks. With the I'm talking about the old school commodities. You remember the can that had the cow on it and the whole bit, and you got it wasn't a huge block of cheese, but it was it was I like that.
Right.
They are giving it out. They are giving it out, and I've seen it. They are giving it out.
They can do that right now because whatever they're giving out for, it could be storm damage or whatever. It's a small localized situation. But like we talked earlier on one of the shows, when something becomes regional, it becomes half the nation or the whole nation. You got what, 340 million Americans in the United States? I mean, that's a lot of people that have a powerful need to eat and drink on a daily basis. Where are you going to get those resources from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because from what it looks like here, just based on the stuff that we're hearing and being able to look up and actually see, is that what was once something that we was like, oh, you know what, that would never ever happen, to it's actually happening in our lifetime, that this can actually go down. And it looks like that's going to be what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Now, I don't think it's going to be, I hope it doesn't get to the point to where there's actual nuclear weapons involved. You know what I mean? I've always said I thought that was like the absolute last resort when you had no other option whatsoever. But for when you're looking at a lot of this stuff now, it's like, this is all that they're threatening now. Every time that one of these countries is mad, the first thing they do, okay, I'm gonna launch a nuke on you. You know what I mean? That's like the overall threat now. Just to, like, you playing chicken with nuclear weapons. You know what I mean? As opposed to, like back in all the other days where you just fought it out. It seems to be like, yeah, like this, that's the simple way. Okay, yeah, I can just launch this nuke right quick and just sit back, but not knowing that, okay, like, you launch one, do you not think one coming to you?
That's right.
You know what I mean? So it's not like you can get around it, because once one goes up in the air, it's going down. Everybody getting ready to die.
Yeah. And I do want to add to that, your nukes are divided into two categories: tactical and strategic. Tactical nukes are what I would call a city killer. It's big enough to take out a major city. But a strategic nuke, you're taking out part of a state with something that big. And Russia has something called a Satan II missile that has it would be equal to 10 of our nukes. It's got a warhead on it that powerful that can take out the entire state of Texas, just one of them. And Ukraine can fit inside the perimeters of the state of Texas. So one strategic nuke would take out the entire country of Ukraine. So I hope to never see strategic use, but I do think we're going to eventually see tactical use on the battlefields because everybody's flirting with it. NATO's flirting with it. It's insanity to me because we and the Russians practice something called if you don't use it, you lose it. Meaning if you let your nuke sit on the ground too long, the first strike coming in is going to take out most of your nukes. So you got to get them in the air as fast as you can. And here recently, the Russian doomsday planes have been up in the sky. And in the United States, 2 of our doomsday planes have been up in the sky. So they're actually flirting with this, and people need to understand just how close we are. And I hope that you make preparations. Hopefully you'll be outside of the fireball and be far enough out that you'd have a chance if you prepare properly.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's something there that, like I said, we talk about it a lot, but that's something that I don't think I would ever have to. I would never want to have to go through after, the after effects. Like, yeah, are you actually prepared for something to go on like that? Sure.
And
Is
Russia
there
has, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
what I was saying? Oh, if you actually like, are some people actually prepared for something like this to go on? Sure, they are. I just wouldn't want to see the aftermath of that,
It's going to be brutal.
and not only seeing everything destroyed, but just to see the actual change in people. Because once something like that takes place, it's now everybody's in survival mode. The ones who did make it through, now in survival mode. And that's a totally different beast. Totally different mind frame, totally different way of doing things. And at that point, it's me against the world. I got to do what I need to do to survive, and that's exactly what that comes to. So I hope that part right there would never have to happen that way. But is there going to be an actual war go on? Damn right, it's about to be one. It's about to be one.
And, I tell people not to live close to Air Force bases inside the country because they're going to be first strikes. Don't live close to the ICBM installations. But I've also added to that list, don't live close to port cities because the port cities will be attacked. Because if they can take out the ports, then there's no way that supplies can move through a country if their ports have been all taken out, and they cannot ship outside the country if the ports have been destroyed.
Mm-hmm. I would just say, just looking at this comment here, it says Russia still has the Cesar bomb, thermonuclear area bomb, 60K bomb. If I remember correctly, they kept all their nuclear stuff, or else surrendered it. Now, there is a lot of ammunition, a lot of missiles and stuff that, like nowadays, nothing's secret, seems like, because, now with the breakthrough of technology and social media and YouTube and everything else, you're able to bring out this information and spread it around the world if need be. Now, with these missiles and these rockets, now there's a lot of them that we know about that they made reports on, and they talk about them, extensively about what it could do and all that. But it's a whole lot of them that they don't say a word about, that you don't know absolutely nothing about. And I think that if they use something, it'd be one of those. It'd be the one that you don't even think about that they have. You know what I mean? Where you be like, oh shit, where'd that come from? You know what I mean? It's not gonna be one that you just know, like, oh yeah, that's a tomahawk, or that's a Mach 3, or that's a, where you can go down and basically name them off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, when you start thinking about the amount of technology and stuff that there is, along with a lot of the technology. Now, back throughout the years, there's been several people that's came up with different inventions where they were able to pull free energy out the air and different stuff like that, which, a lot of that technology disappeared, and the people that invented them disappeared as well. There's a lot of places that's testing different weapons that we have absolutely no idea. You know what I mean? That they can put out if they just absolutely needed to, and just totally wreck shop if they needed to.
I would agree with you on that. I mean, even Russia has that new torpedo thing. I think it's called a Poseidon. It's an underwater drone, and they said they can release that. It has its ability to avoid our countermeasures. It can avoid being attacked in water, sail right up into our ports, and detonate a nuclear weapon. So drone technology is really advanced. And I saw a picture here recently where a B-1 bomber, a B-2 stealth bomber, two of our Raptors, was being escorted by 6 drone fighters. And I was amazed at that they have that ability to come out with something like that. They even got helicopter drones now that they can send in ahead of the troops and attack whatever they need to attack. So
Wow.
we're going to see weapons we've never seen before, and it's going to be rough.
Yeah, like I said, this is I would hope that none of this would even come about. But like I said, based on everything that we've been listening to, and and this ain't something where you just have regular little Joe Blow just talking about this. This has actually been a lot of these reports that we're listening to is actually high-ranking officials that's saying that this is going to go on. You know what I mean? Now, it may not go on the way, we think that it's going to be, doom and gloom. They're going to shoot nukes and all that stuff. But, some people say that this is already going on, but it's going along with the cyber stuff that's going on back and forth now.
Right.
That this stuff is already starting to take hold. So, like I said, I don't
do weapons, DEW, direct energy weapons. That's something that they've got out in space. I mean, that Star Wars program wasn't putting stuff up there for nothing. The rods of God is another weapon that they claim they got up there. It'd be something to see, but we'll see warfare on a scale that we've never seen. If they don't take those satellites out, every time you advance, you're just going to be cannon fodder, because when they see you through those satellites advancing, they're going to drop some serious stuff on you.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. But we're going to keep our nose and our ears to the information that's being put out, and we'll make sure that we keep everybody posted as to what we are hearing and and what we're seeing, and the different escalations that's coming in place. You know what I mean? Because like I said, remember earlier when I was talking about that you had Secretary of Staff, Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, that was talking about that they were definitely going to bring Ukraine into NATO, which is going to cause another whole fiasco of events that's coming around. You know what I mean? So, so some people may think like, oh man, this is bullshit. This ain't gonna never happen. Believe what you want. Do your own information. Do your own investigation on all this. Look at it.
Right.
Gather your own information. I mean, don't just listen to us. Go on and look it up for yourselves, because it's right there.
Between the weapons that we're giving Ukraine, the soldiers that from NATO were sneaking in, we're calling them advisors and mercenaries, the sanctions, the high tariffs, the embargoes. I mean, we're backing Russia into a corner, and sooner or later they're going to come out swinging. I mean, if you go back in history and you look at when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, I mean, the real reason behind that was in 1941, U.S. started oil embargo against Japan. Japan had empire goals in that time period of building an empire, and they had no oil. We put an oil embargo against them. We were using our ships to enforce that oil embargo. We would not allow them to buy steel or iron or anything that could be used for war materials or natural resources. And we backed them into a corner that they either had to stop their ambition or come out swinging. And they came out swinging. They tried to take our fleet out at Pearl Harbor, and they failed to get the carriers, and that came back to haunt them later. But you look at Gaddafi. I mean, what was he going to do? All he wanted to do was go onto a gold standard, and he felt that would help his nation. It was a sovereign nation. He had the right to do that. Next thing you know, he was in a civil war with the United States backing the rebels against him, because that gold standard, seeing our money's not on the gold standard, that was a direct threat to the US dollar, and they couldn't have it. I mean, in 1950, the United States sent the 7th Fleet into the Strait of Taiwan, which is that 100-mile area between Taiwan and China, to block the Chinese Navy from crossing there to retake Taiwan. What did China do? They went tit for tat. They came into Korea instead and attacked our forces from behind and kept us in a quagmire there for the next 7 years. So, I mean, history shows that we've done this. And moving forward, I mean, the proxies started when we was using Gaddafi, when we were going into the Congo and hiring mercenaries to fight for copper rights, mineral wealth in Africa, things like that. I mean, it's about money, and he that controls it controls everything. So people need to, people need to open their eyes.
Yeah, they need to start taking a better look at this stuff. Like I said, this stuff that we're talking about here, this ain't nothing that we're making up. I mean, it's right there. I mean, it's easy to find. I mean, it's easy to find. All you got to do is look it up and watch it. I mean, even if you don't want to read their videos, just watch it. You know what I mean? It's right there. I mean, this stuff is like I said, a lot of people may not want to hear this, but you need to hear this. You know what I mean? So it's better for you to hear it now and make some kind of preparation. Or you can say, oh man, that's just some bull. And you be one of these ones that be running around here like a savage, trying to find something to eat and trying to find something for your kids to eat or whatever, because you don't think shit stinks. It's there. You know what I mean? It ain't nothing else more we can say about it other than, you know, pay attention, start watching what's around, you know what I mean, and pray for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can do. But we've been on here for what was it, hour 24? So we're gonna make our exit from this. First, I want to thank everybody that came on, that was watching. Thank you, Aaron, once again for coming on here and dropping your knowledge. I mean, it's always good to have that back and forth going on. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the meeting of the minds, so to speak. But like I said, me and you talk all the time. So I know that every time that we get into a conversation, we're gonna start digging down into it. So by the time we get off, we both gonna learn something that we didn't know anything about. So I appreciate you once again for coming on with me and doing this show tonight.
Well, I love coming on doing them. So anytime, I'll be glad to do it.
So do you have any parting words that you want to tell everybody before we jump off of here?
Well, like I said, other nations are warning their people to prepare for war. They're telling them it's coming. And they're telling them to buy gold and silver and buy essentials, even extra shoes and clothing. Because when the war starts, there ain't going to be much moving around. So if you want to have it, you better get it now while your money can actually afford to buy more. Because later, prices on everything are going to jump so high, you're not going to have the same spending power that you will right now. So, a hint to the wise is sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And with that, we're going to close another show. Man, this has been a doozy. I don't know I don't even know what I'm going to talk about next week, but I know it's going to be, I don't know whether it's going to be anything dealing with this. I hope not. I hope it ain't anything dealing with this. Like I said, last week we kind of went off a little bit and, talked about some other stuff that was more like a little comic relief a little bit. Just kind of, let's just do this show, talk about this and get a few laughs out of it and just have a good time. Not actually having to be serious all the time, but then we had to jump right back into it because this is what's going on right now. And this is stuff that people need to know and that we need to talk about, and like I said, if it helps out one person, then
That's right. I agree.
Then what I did was for a good cause. So everybody, thank you all for coming out. Like, follow, share, subscribe. Let your people know. Come on here and watch this stuff. And like I said, it's beneficial for everyone. So until then, Archbishop, that's Aaron, and we out.
Okay.
One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free, then let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free, mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads, feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them